The greatest thing in Michigan is to be a child of God. I like a morning bunch. I really do. So good to be with you. I'll tell you, one of the amazing blessings in my life through the years has been to help lead our small groups here at Waterford. And when you came in this morning, we tried to get a blue card to everyone who came in. If you didn't get one of these blue cards, Terry has a few extras in his hand. And if you'd let him know, Terry would see to it that you would get one. Does anybody did not get a blue card when you came in this morning? Got one over here. What happened to Terry? Terry need one over here. All right, I want everybody to have a blue card that didn't get one when you came in. We tried to catch everybody when you came in. We need to gather some information. And so we're asking you that sometime during the service today that you would fill that out, and we'll gather it at the end of our assembly. Anybody else did not get a blue card? Let Terry know. Thank you, Terry. Yep. All right. Thank you. All righty. Alan wants one over here, Terry. All right. Appreciate you doing that. One morning, Jesus went down to the Sea of Galilee to teach the people. And as the crowd pressed in on him, apparently he kind of backed nearer and nearer to the sea itself behind him. And as he did that, he noticed that there were two boats there, and some men had gone out fishing during the night, and they were now tending to their nets. And Jesus asked to enter into one of the boats and to push out just a little bit from the shore to where he could sit down and there begin to teach the people. And when he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, whose boat he got into, "Launch out into the deep. Let down your nets for a draught." Now, I hope that I can make afresh and anew today that expression. It's one that all of us have probably read at one time or another, but I want everybody who listens to my voice, launch out into the deep, let down your nets for a draught. The men in today's passage that was read just a moment ago, they failed, or should I say, seemed to fail. They had gone out the night before expecting to catch fish, but after working all night, they caught nothing, and they came in with nothing except for tired muscles and torn nets. And although it appeared that they were unsuccessful, using challenges as opportunities can prevent a person from experiencing true failure. A person cannot fail without, first of all, giving failure permission. And sometimes, as one person wrote, we need to make chariot wheels out of our failures and ride them to success. Another person said success is failure with a fresh coat of paint. If every failure, there is an equivalent seed for success, and if any of us have seemed to fail at one time or another, the message here this morning is launch out and let down. There is growth in the message of Jesus here. There are steps up and steps out that we want to look at. And the call to service of all of God's people is launch out. It's a call from Jesus that's real similar to the one that he gave us in Mark chapter 16 and verse 15, when he said to go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. One man said that we ought to come up with T-shirts that the motto of every Christian is that we are saved to serve. That's us. We've been saved in order to serve, and so we're ready to serve. There was a preacher one time who was teaching on Acts chapter 17 and verse 6, where it says, those who have turned the world upside down have come here too. He said there's three big lessons in that short verse. And the first one is the world was wrong side up. Secondly, it needed to be turned right side up. And third, we're the fellows to do it. Wow. It's interesting to me, and I think it is to you too, that the message for all believers in Jesus Christ today is that the world is wrong side up. We can listen to any newscast. We can even talk to our friends and find out real quick, I know that's true. And it needs to be turned right side up. And you and I are the ones to make it happen. We are saved to serve. When Jesus went back to heaven, he did so because his work here was finished. That is, his sacrificial work on the cross that we remembered just a moment ago for us and for the entire world. But we're still here because the work on earth is not finished. There are many around us who haven't heard clearly that Jesus died for them and that salvation is found only in him. And so I've got an idea that there are some people around us who feel that all the launching out has already been done, that there's not any task to be performed anymore. That was done by our parents and grandparents and others. But the truth is, mark it down, Jesus has something now for us to do. In John chapter 15 and in verse 16, it says, ye have not chosen me, but I've chosen you and ordained you that you should go and bring forth fruit and that your fruit should remain. Now, if you don't believe me, it's in the scriptures. Now, God expects every believer to be a fruit-bearing Christian. Oh, stop. Now, we're not talking about love, joy, peace, and long suffering. We're talking about the fruit of a Christian is another Christian. It's finding someone who needs to be discipled, someone who needs to be taught, somebody who needs to be influenced, and influencing them. Paul says in Romans chapter 1 and verse 13, he said, I would not have you ignorant, brethren, that oftentimes I propose to come to you, that I might have some fruit among you also, even as among other Gentiles. The fruit there having reference to where he wants to create other believers. Proverbs chapter 11 and verse 30 says to all of us that the fruit of the one... Oh, I lost my page. All right, that's where it went. Just a minute. I turned two at the same time. That the fruit of the righteous is the tree of life, and he that winneth souls is wise. It's still the wish and command of God that the salvation message be carried out to every single person you know. Family, non-family, strangers. I mean, if somehow, let's just say for a second that we could stop the world's population for a moment. If we could just stop everybody from dying and stop everybody from being born for just a moment and freeze the world's population. Now, one man said it would take 320 years to win the United States, over 4,000 years to win the world at today's rate of disciple making. Well, we can't stop the population from growing, can we? We've got to share the salvation that you and I have in Jesus Christ, because people are dying every moment of every day. You know, there's no hope for salvation after death. That once, a person dies without Christ, their destiny is sealed. So the call to service in this passage is launch out. I don't know about you, but it thrills me every time I hear about a congregation, that's progressing in their disciple making, or I hear about people putting Christ on in baptism. I mean, wow. And we need to respond to the call of service. There's an old song that has a phrase that says, "There is much to do, there is work on every hand. Hark, the cry for help comes ringing through the land. Jesus calls for reapers, I must active be. What will thou, O Master? Here am I, send me." Launch out into the deep. Let down your nets for a draught. Notice Jesus' language. Launch out into the deep. You know, the waters along the shoreline usually are overfished. There's a lot of people on the shore fishing, but it's out in the deep where the fish sometimes have never, smelled or seen bait or a net. It's way out there in the deep. And so all those who are fishing on the shore, a lot of times, they'll get their lines tangled up, and we got to spend so much time to sweeten them up so they won't be too angry while we untangle everything, but we need to be in the deep. And Jesus then says, let down your nets for a draught. Do you know there's deeps all around us? There are deeps in our personal lives. There are untouched deeps in prayer. The greatest prayer ever prayed was the prayer of Jesus, but other than that, the greatest prayer is yet to be prayed. I've heard some wonderful sermons, but the greatest sermons are yet to be shared. I've sung a lot of songs, but the greatest songs are probably yet to be written. There are depths in our spiritual walk with Jesus that are still out there yet to be enjoyed. Paul said, "For I know whom I have believed, and persuaded that he's able to keep that which I've committed unto him against that day," in 2 Timothy chapter 1 and verse 12. But he's also the one who said in Philippians 3 and verse 10, that I may know him and the power of his resurrection. Now wait a minute, Paul. Now, he's not contradicting himself. He knew Jesus as his Savior, but he didn't know him as well as he wanted to know him. He said, that I may know him more and more. Well, to know Jesus better. How well do you know Jesus? Is it as deep as you want? How deep are we in making disciples, for example, and seeing the Holy Spirit's power in our relationships with other people? Jesus calls us to go out to the deep. And there are deeps in our service. And I just really fear that there's a lot of us who feel like all the great congregations for God have already been established, and some have come and gone. Oh, my land, rather, that's not true. We have greater opportunities today than past generations have ever had. I mean, we have media that my grandparents didn't even imagine. We've got the printed page, we got television, we got travel possibilities. Do you know, brother, a man could preach on the East Coast in the morning, get on an airplane and fly and preach that night on the West Coast? We're living in that kind of a day. What opportunities we have. We can have groups that are meeting in homes in every community around us at different times and different days, with men and women who are willing to lead the Bible discussions in those groups and helping each other grow. And some people hearing the great salvation that's for us in Jesus, some clearly for the first time. And with deep emotion and earnestness, Jesus says, afresh and anew to us today, launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a draught. Reach out beyond yourself. Get off the shoreline. Stop fighting over tangled lines. Dream. Dream big. You may never do everything that you dream that you will do, but you'll never do more than you dream. So dream. See groups in every community. See people who don't know Christ yet coming to those groups. See people growing and developing in those groups. See yourself leading a Bible discussion in one of those groups. There's a poem I read one time that said, I've dreamed many dreams that never came true. I've seen them vanish at dawn. But I've realized enough of my dreams, thank God, to make me keep dreaming on. I've prayed many prayers when no answer seemed to come. Though I walked patiently and long, but answers have come enough of my prayers to make me keep on praying. I've trusted many friends that have proven untrue and left me to weep alone. But enough of my friends have proven true blue to make me keep trusting on. I've drained the cup of disappointment and pain. I've gone many days without song, and I've sipped enough nectar from the roses of life to make me want to live on. Keep reaching out beyond yourself. The call of service is to launch out. The challenge of service is to launch out into the deep. Attempt some greater things than you've done in the past for the Lord, and expect some great things from Him. Notice the words again of Jesus. Let down your nets for a draught. Can you imagine with me, Peter? Peter saying, Lord, if we had known your plans, we could have sent down to Cairo and gotten some brand new, latest patented nets. We would have been more ready for you today. No. He might have said, well, these nets that we have are old and they're all patched up and stuff. If we'd only known, we could have gotten some different nets. No, notice what Jesus says, though. Let down your nets. It's not new nets that you need. What you need to do is follow the instructions of Himself. Isn't it interesting to you, I hope it is, that in the very same place that had been a failure now becomes a success. It's with the same boats. It's with the same nets. It's in the same water. They had toiled all night. They had taken nothing. Peter's a fisherman, as all of you know, and he knew how to fish this area. And you can almost hear him saying to yourself, hey, I know fishing. And I know that you fish at night. You don't fish in the daytime. This is not the time to go catch fish. But he obeys Jesus, and he caught a draught. I like that phrase. That's why I'm throwing it at you all the time. He used what he had. And God expects us to use what we have. And it amazes me, really, when I read through the Bible to see some of the people that God uses. Have you noticed things like I have, that there's a stammering, stuttering Moses? There's a Gideon who was least in his father's household. There's a David who was overlooked by his own dad as a prospect for king. There was a little boy with 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Oh, I like Shamgar and the ox goad. Or how about, so many others. But here's what God is saying: let down your nets. See, we get to read it anytime we want to, over and over and over again. Let down your nets. You've got your own circle of friends who you can reach out to for Jesus. You've got people that you work with. Nobody else can reach them like you can. And you've got your own responsibility. You've got your own job to let down your net. I saw posted one time where it says, well, I'm one and only one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something. What can I do? I ought to do. And what I ought to do, by God's grace, I will do. That's true of every one of us. Each one of us has something to do that nobody else, don't look around the congregation. There's something we can do that nobody else can do. I read a story one time about a passenger liner that was going from America to England. And as they were traveling, it got late at night. And all of a sudden, the scream came out, "Man overboard! Man overboard!" And everybody rushed to the side of the ship and grabbed as many ropes as they could and began throwing them over. Because of the darkness, they couldn't see them. There was a man in his cabin who was sick, and he heard the cries, and he was too ill to get up and to go and to help throw ropes over. And so what he did is that he lit his lantern and he held it by the window of his cabin. Early in the morning, the man was rescued, and he was told about a little light that shined through a window that enabled him to see one of the ropes that had been thrown out. And he grabbed hold of the rope and hung on for dear life until daylight came. He said, "I thank God for the man, whoever he was, who held the lantern in his window." It was the man who was too sick to go up on the deck and throw out a rope. But he did what he could, and doing what he could saved the life of the man that went overboard. Jesus says to us, let down your nets. Use what you have and trust God. Peter says, "Nevertheless, at thy word I will let down the net." Our best will be God blessed, and he'll bring in the draught. Just for the fun of it, let's ask Peter. Imagine with me. Peter, what kind of draught do you expect? Well, we fished all night and caught nothing. So let's just say that we're fortunate, and maybe we'll get, I'll stretch it, a third of a boat full. Maybe. Let's ask Jesus to define a draught. Oh, that's one boat overflowing with fish and calling for another to come and overflowing with fish. 2 boats full and more. The greatest catch of fish any of them had ever seen. Let me ask you, how would you define a draught? Oh, maybe one person obeying the gospel this year in our small group. Well, how do you think Jesus would define a draught in your net? Peter in verse 9 says that he was astonished. Wouldn't it be amazing if the thing that you and I shared with one another on Sunday morning was, I got to tell you something, I was astonished this week. I got to tell you, I was astonished. It might be this morning that you've been studying on your own or with someone else, and you'd like to turn your life over to a Jesus who astonishes us with his death on the cross and the salvation that he offers us. If you're here this morning and you need to respond, we'd love to assist you if you would let us while we together stand and sing this song.